Hello and welcome to part 1 of the March 2021 layout update from the Trent Valley Railway. In this update there's work on building up the embankments. So I've put down all those plaster sheets, layered it up. I ballast the track inside the tunnels. We now have the start of some ballast on the main lines then coming out of the tunnels. And there's plenty of time-lapse videos. I have been making good progress on the scenery alongside the main lines, so I've decided to split up this March 2021 layout update into 2 parts, and as you'll see throughout this update here, this one is mainly full of time-lapse videos showing me working on all those scenic areas that I've got done so far. At the end of last month's update I just started preparing the area around the track going into the tunnel to start hopefully getting some ballast and the rest of the scenery down. So I've already then made some more progress and work to use the spare bits of the foam incline risers that I have to fill in the gaps between the different levels of the baseboard, and I've done the same as well for the cork, and I've added just 2 strips. Different thickness of cork there that I had left over, and what I can do now is put the plaster sheets over the top of that and obviously shape the landscape from the container depot down to just in front of the main running lines. I have worked my way to be about a little bit past the level point with the work that I'd already done on this side nearest the camera on the embankment. So I've put down all those plaster sheets, layered it up as you've seen. I've also just added in the extra bit of cable trunking now and glued that down, and also filled in a bit more of the sort of landscaping between the 2 lines as they go in towards the tunnel portals. So next part here will be painting some earth colours on all of the mod rock so far here, but also then starting to ballast the running lines coming out of the tunnel. The next part of the work here has involved then using the fine turf and the blended turf, having just basically brushed some diluted PVA onto the brown areas where I put the earth undercoat. So this was all along between the container depot and the retaining walls, but also then as the main line comes out the tunnels. So I've got blended turf on that side as well as in the middle area. I've also got some then down the bottom of the embankment, which then now joins up towards the grassy area I'd put on top. So I do need to hoover the excess off this so it won't look as green as it's looking at the moment. On top of that then goes the static grass. But whilst I'm waiting for all that to dry and set, I'm now going to start putting some ballast down inside the tunnel portals and on the tracks coming out of there. I've only glued down underneath the ballast so far, so I'll now let that dry a bit and then I'll come back here and add a few drops of the scenic cement over the top of this to set the ballast. We now have the start of some ballast on the main lines then, coming out of the tunnels, and between the last clips and also just speaking to you now, I've just run my finger over the top of the sleepers just to sort of brush off any loose ballast, but also to give it a bit more of a neater appearance, but not too neat. And I've also used a very small flathead screwdriver just to remove any ballast that was stuck to the inside rails. So I've got a few areas just to tidy up, and when I carry on the ballast, particularly on the left hand running line there, I'll add some more ballast to the shoulder. But the ballast now is dry. It is rock hard. So that's now set, as it's got a little bit more warm in the garage. And as I explained as well in the short clip before this, into the tunnels is also complete, as well as around the cable troughing. So again, I've got some few gaps and some tidying up to do around the sort of grassy area meeting up with the retaining walls and the tunnel portal, and particularly on this side I've made a bit of a mess, but that's just because of how the embankment comes down in front of the retaining wall there, and that's how I wanted it to appear. So I've got the static grass to apply to these areas in due course, but the eagle-eyed amongst you may have also noted that at the back of the container depot I've also changed the brick paper from the breeze blocks to some engineering red brick, and I think this now looks a lot better. Obviously I had the breeze blocks on there for a bit of a short time, but I've been umming and ahhing, it looked a bit plain, so actually now having those engineering red blocks on there, it looks a lot better and more realistic. So I've got some more tidying up to do around the sort of container depot up to the edge of the engineering brickwork and also the retaining wall there, and then I will continue now with the scenery alongside the running lines. Moving on then with more scenery work, and before I start the static grass and getting the applicator out for doing that small section there, I'm going to do that at the same time as the rest of the embankment along here. So I've attached another board onto the small one that I've just been working on over since the start of this update, and I'm going to then fill all of this space here all the way down to here, which is about, I'd say, halfway down the container depot. So I'm going to be putting newspaper into this area now, and then after that putting on the plaster cloth sheets on top for the mod rock. So here we have the next section then of the mod rock. This is just the first layer for both sides here. I've also then got to do the gaps where the Woodland Scenics foam incline riser is, so that I can easily ballast between the two main lines, just like I've done this small bit here. So I've got some more work to do to add another layer over the top of the plaster sheets that I've put down, but we're starting to see now some lengthy scenery all the way along the main line, continuing then this little bit here. So that's it for this part of the layout update. In part 2 I hopefully will have completed more of the main line looking like this. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more from the Trent Valley Railway. Cheers.